Appreciate it. All right, 57 degrees is the first angle. You have 11 for your first side, and you have B, which is 10. So I could draw the triangle, but it's really not needed. So the first thing you have to do is you have to do the law of sines to find the first angle. And so it looks like this. You have the sine of 57. That's B, so I have to put side length B underneath that, which is equal to sine A over 11. No choice. Had to do that. So at this point, there really isn't a whole lot of things that you can mess up on. If you work around this and we solve backwards, we're going to get 11 times the sine of 57 divided by 10. That's equal to the sine of A. If we apply the inverse sine of both sides, somebody tell me what you got for angle A. 67.3. Okay, so now what we have is we have found our first angle. I've also gotten to the point in the game where I need to check to see if a second triangle exists because we are in the angle side scenario. If I was angle side, I wouldn't even bother with this because it's not possible. Bad word, bad situation. If it's not, don't do this. You'll waste your time. Okay? And so the operation goes like this. We're going to say 180 minus the angle that I got, which is 67.3, which is what? So if a second triangle exists, then that's going to be my second angle for that side or that particular letter. So in this case, we're looking at angle A. We got as 67.3, and angle A2, and this is questionable at this point because we haven't quite verified, it would be 112.7. So how are we going to check that? We need to know that if I add the angle that they started with, I need to add it to this number to see if there's room for a third angle. I should unlock that, really. Okay, so we're going to say my original angle, 57 plus 112.7. Probably. So if I add those together, what do you get? What do you get if you add them together? 169.7. By the fact that that number is less than 180 says yes, there are two triangles. Where you add them together, it's just a way of verifying yes, triangle exists or no, it doesn't. That 169.7, it's not an angle that you're going to write down. It just helps you to check to see. Okay? So we verified, there's no question anymore, there exists two triangles. Does that make sense, that part of it? Because that's the part that you probably didn't know before today. Well, if you watched the video, you knew. That's how Allie knew.
Okay, so what?
Grin. Ma'am? When you did that first step, when we found 67.3, it would have been error. You wouldn't have been able to find any of them. That makes sense, right? What happens is when you do the division and you go to do sine inverse, the number you're going to take the sine inverse off is bigger than 1. It's going to be wrong. It's not possible. Luke? Okay, let me go ahead. I'm going to erase that part of it. I'm not done yet. I mean, this is the hard part.
No, I meant like this.
Yes, this. So I found my angle A. Let's go ahead and find angle B. That's pretty easy, right? So if we go ahead and write this out, let me erase some of this stuff. So what we have so far is we have angle A1 is equal to 67.3. A2 is 112.7. 55.7. We also know that angle B, I'm not going to put a number on that one because it's the same. How would I find my third angle, C?
180 minus.
Easiest part in the entire process. Finding the third angle should always be a give me problem. Okay? So what is it? What's C1?
55.7.
And C2?
10.3.
Got all my angles. Side length A is 11. Side length B is 10. And side length C is we don't know. How would you find that third side length?
Okay, when I worked it out for the little second triangle.
You shouldn't have to work it out.
I know.
It would be decimals.
I got 10 on the dot.
10 point something, right?
10 exactly.
Then you, are you sure you didn't solve for B? You should never solve for the angles that parts they give you. Don't solve for those
Okay.
because it won't work out. I mean, it should work out the same way. It's like over here when Allie did this one. She had 18.999, which was just 19, and she solved manually for it. Don't solve it. Those parts are the same. Put them down. You should solve for 3 parts in addition to what they gave you per triangle. What did you do to find side C? I've got 2 triangles here. Piece of cake, right? You look. You've got group. You've got group 1 here, and you've got group 2 here. The only thing I have to do is treat those as completely separate problems. Finding a side length. Law of sines. How would you do it? I would do sine 57 over 10 equals sine 55.7 over C, which I don't know, and solve for it. Just like you did any other time to find the side lengths. Do we need to go through that process? It's using law of sines, straightforward. Questions? What is C1? 9.9 and C2?
10.3. Wait, no, it's 2.13, sorry.
I was about to say, wait a minute. 2.13?
2.13.
So 2.1 is fine. Now let's make sense of our answers. Something that strikes me interesting at first is that in the first triangle, I look at my sides and they're all about the same. And I think, well, the only kind of triangle like that is like an equilateral triangle. Do I have an equilateral triangle? Almost.
Close.
In other words, my question is, are my angles all about 60 degrees? And that's true. And so that just reaffirms what I'm thinking. And I look at my angles and angle A and angle, if I look at angle C2, I see that the side length C2 is extremely small, just like C2 for the angle is extremely small. Confirming what I should see. Those are just real quick check and balances that you can look through to see if you got it right or wrong. Okay? And so this is how you should attempt to try to solve the law of sine problems. This is the most complicated of all the problems. If you had done one with 0 solutions, the first thing you would have gotten is an undefined answer when you tried to find the first angle. If you had had one that had only 1 triangle, when you go to do that 180 minus the angle, when you add back the original angle, that number will be greater than or equal to 180 degrees.
So if it's greater than, it's still 1 triangle.
Right, because you found 1.
Yeah.
But if it's greater than or equal to 180, it means that second one can't exist. Okay?